to what would happen if the world of law takes a vacation to a comedy club. The learned solicitor has the answer with his literary double act, two books, The Lawful and the Awful, and second, The Bench, the Bar, and the Bizarre. Reading these two books back to back is like binging a courtroom drama that accidentally wandered into a stand-up special. As I flipped through the pages of these two books, I found myself struck by a question over and over again. How on earth did Tushar Bhai find the time to pen these charming tomes in the first place? As the Solicitor General of India, I see him spending his mornings in court number 1. His afternoons are probably divided in other courtrooms and government work. And his evening, I'm using guardian language, in the evening, I hope he spends some time in reading thousands of pages of briefs also. And yet, we are all here to launch not one but two books. So I try to solve this mystery. I have two running theories. Either Tushar Bhai has successfully petitioned the Almighty for a 25th hour in the day and kept that order strictly for himself. Or probably he has discovered that the best time for comedic writing is when he's sitting in court number 1 and he knows the benches will keep on reading and reading the brief and he has enough time to pen down his memories. Believe me, my money is on the later. Who could have guessed that dusty case files, legal jargon, and solemn judicial proceedings could turn into fodder for hilarity? Yet, here we are, grinning from ear to ear, as if we have just stumbled across a Supreme Court ruling authored by Mark Twain. Learned Solicitor General has done what so few dare to attempt. He has entered the hallowed halls of the legal world armed with nothing but sharp quips and a keen eye. And he has emerged victorious, carrying a treasure trove of anecdotes that will make even the most stoic jurist crack a smile, and that to a big smile. Through hilarious tales, piercing observations, and a comic lens that never misses its mark, these books invite readers to explore legal dilemmas with chuckles instead of headaches. Reading about these comical episodes, I was reminded of a few priceless stories from our own neck of the woods. Had Tushar Bhai written third book, and that too on Indian instances, which Honorable Home Minister also reminded, and he himself put a caveat that why he did not write. But his own predecessor, C.K. Daftari Saab and Fali Nariman were arguing an important company case before Bombay High Court. Our colleague from Bombay are also sitting here. When Daftari Saab rose to argue, he muttered, "My learned friend." He then again cleared his throat and said, "My learned friend." The judge advised, "Mr. Daftari, why don't you take a seat and have a sip of water?" Daftari Saab seized the exact opening he was waiting for and remarked, No, my lord, it's not my throat. It is the argument of my learned friend. I simply cannot swallow them." I recollect another instance when Mr. Daftari was trying hard to sell a legal proposition to Justice Hidayatullah after he was elevated to Supreme Court. Justice Hidayatullah explained, "Mr. Daftari, I have taken a contradictory view when I was Chief Justice of the Madhya Pradesh High Court." Mr. Daftari very quickly replied. He said, "My lord, now is your chance to repent." All high courts will have wonderful instances of judges cracking jokes, wit inside the court, outside the court, and of course, there are so many instances in north, south, northeast, wherever parts of the country you would like to examine. And all of you are aware of when Justice Kuldeep Singh, in our typical Punjabi style, he asked Mr. Ramaswamy, Learned Attorney General, "Do you think we are fools?" And Ramaswamy, Mr. Sibbal and all of them are here, they will recollect. He very characteristically replied, "My lord, you have put me in a very difficult situation." If I agree, I am in contempt. If I disagree, I commit perjury. Honorable Home Minister rightly pointed out, तुषार भाई is very fond of शेर शायरी. इनके व्हाट्सएप पे या कभी दूसरे उस पे जब भी देखेंगे तो सिर्फ शेर और शायरी ही आपको सुनने को मिलती है. तो हमारे यहाँ 95-96 में जब हाई कोर्ट में ट्रांसफर पॉलिसी में बाहर के काफ़ी जजेज आए तो उन लोगों ने हमें यंग लॉयर्स को काफ़ी प्रमोट भी किया और बड़ा अच्छा माहौल हमारी हाई कोर्ट में था. तो हमारे एक जज साहब इलाहाबाद से ट्रांसफर होकर के आए थे. उनको भी उर्दू का शेर व शायरी का बहुत शौक था. तो एक दिन एक वकील साहब ने बेल मैटर आर्गू किया. जज साहब को कन्विंस नहीं हुए तो उन्होंने उसको डिसमिस कर दिया. तो लॉयर ने बड़े जोर से फाइल को पटका और कोर्ट से बाहर निकलने लगे. तो गेट के जब आसपास पहुंचे तो जज साहब ने उनको बोला, जनाब एक बार रुकिए, एक बार रुकिए. तो वकील साहब ने सोचा शायद मेरे मैटर को दोबारा से रिकंसिडर कर रहे हैं. तो वापस आए और आ गए. तो उनको पास में बुला लिया. तो उनको बोला, देखिए इस अंजुमन में आपको आना है बार बार, दीवारों दर को गौर से पहचान लीजिए. ये कह के वापस भेज दिया. So that was the kind of humor we have seen as young lawyers in our court. I also recollect when probably I was just 3 or 4 months old practice in the High Court. One lawyer who had an Air Force background and was a very dedicated lawyer, he argued one matter very passionately, very, very passionately, but he couldn't convince the bench. Eventually then he said, my lord, probably there is something wrong with my communication. The judge said, no, it's not communication alone. There is a problem in transmission also. But the most hilarious instance which I could, and ये तुषार भाई इसलिए बता रहा हूँ, आपका 3rd वॉल्यूम तैयार हो जाएगा इसमें. There was British judge Lord Leach. He was holding court in Madras High Court. In the middle of the counsel, passionately making submissions, unfortunately a donkey brayed. Leach was very brutal. He was very nasty to the lawyers. He said, gentlemen, one at a time. The lawyer was also equally smart. He also waited for his turn. But meanwhile, the arguments over, Justice Leach started dictating the judgment. The donkey brayed again. The counsel then remarked, he said, can my lord repeat the words, since it was echoing and was not clear? So Tushar bhai, for your 3rd book, you can gaze towards our own judicial system, which I am sure is feeling left out of the limelight. And believe you me, there is no dearth of comical tales from our own region. In fact, I am certain we have enough material in Delhi itself to fill a library. Of course, I would be more than happy to contribute. Naturally, I would be less tight-lipped post-retirement. I think omitting the Indian bench from his razor-sharp volumes was not simply an editorial discretion, but it was actually his heightened survival instinct. Tushar bhai knows that if he wrote about our quacks, his next mentioning in court number 1 would have been outrightly rejected, and that too without any review petition. Ladies and gentlemen, what elevates this current collection beyond a mere string of comical incidents is the artistry with which they are woven into an engaging narrative. Consider the vast scale of what Tushar has captured in writing. Everything from dress code, disasters to AI hallucinations in judgments and pleadings. He has even covered drunk and disorderly conduct, which in all fairness is usually just called Saturday night for the bar here. The beauty of these books lies not only in their comic timing, but also in the sheer depth of research that went behind all their jest. Tushar bhai has raided law libraries, shifted through cold old case files, and dug out obscure trial records that read more like sitcom scripts than somber documents. He presents baffled witnesses, judges with a flair for the dramatic, and lawyers caught in the crossfire of their own hysterical missteps. The courtroom is where theatre meets law, and everyone has a starring role. The learned solicitor paints a picture where there are hardly any innocent extras. He joshes the bench and the bar, both of whom are stuck in a delightful dance of mutual absurdity. Judges, with their stern faces and occasional impatience, and lawyers with their flourishes and periodic theatrics, all contribute to the grand spectacle of justice. Mr. Mehta, thank you for reminding us that the law is not just about orders and objections. It is also about the human comedy that happens in between. These books are a celebration of statutes twirling with style and of precedents dancing right into punchlines. Far from being just witty stories, these are revelations about how the humanity of the legal process occasionally peeks through its marble's facade. Tushar Bhai is not content with simply tossing jokes at us. He masterfully serves every anecdote as both amusement and illumination. He reminds us gently that the law, for all its seriousness, is still a profoundly human enterprise. At the end of the day, behind every statute and every ruling are just people with their own quirks, their own flaws, but also occasional bursts of comic brilliance. Both these books have achieved something remarkable. They make you appreciate the law more deeply by laughing at it. Humor here is not mockery, but education. By finding the comedy in the courtroom, Tushar Bhai revealed that beating heart beneath the robes and the formalities. In a world that often sees law as intimidating or impenetrable, learned solicitor has thrown open the doors, invited us in, and give us permission to chuckle heartily at its absurdities. These books are much a triumph of clever storytelling as they are of the law's unexpected capacity for comedy. It will leave bookworms happier, wiser, and perhaps secretly wishing that all legal briefs come with a punchline or two. Tushar's pen is as sharp as it is warm, and each page reminds readers that justice may be blind. That justice may be blind, but she has an excellent sense of humor.